Hello everyone and welcome to the showdown between the Skaven, who are going to be led by Grey Seer with the Lore of Ruin, and the forces of the Dark Elves, who are going to be led by Malekith the Witch King. So let's jump right into this game, guys, and take a look at some of these army compositions. So here in Vanguard, I do have two groups of the Gutter Runners with Poison, and these guys are an excellent harass unit. Firstly, they have 48 movement speed, so they're pretty much going to be able to outrun any infantry. However, you can see their speed is about to be slowed by Malekith the Witch King and his Chill Wind, which is probably going to drop them down to, about 35, give or take. But even if an enemy unit is able to close the distance on these guys, they do fire while moving. So they're going to be throwing their Ninja Stars or their Shurikens, applying poison, which is going to slow speed. But on top of that, they also have another layer of slowing. So you can see here they do have this buff, or debuff, I guess is more the more appropriate term, but it's called Snare Net. So anyone that comes within a 45 meter radius of them is going to have their charge speed and their regular speed debuffed by 24%, which is very strong. So these guys are probably even harder to catch than Chameleon Skinks, and definitely going to be a thorn in my opponent's side. So aside from that, I do have a front line of Plague Monks, and I think these guys are the more cost-effective infantry of the Skaven. They have a nice anti-infantry bonus, and by Skaven standards, they do have pretty good leadership. You can see it's up at 87 right now. I do have a Grey Seer with the Lore of Ruin, and guys, you're going to get to see the dreaded 13th spell. So it does summon a group of Storm Vermin with Halberds, which isn't bad. The Dark Elves do have a fair amount of armored troops. Granted, he does have some Bleak Swords over here, and so he actually has a bunch of Shades. So I haven't seen Shades in a long time. I think I've only played one game against him. So he has the Shades with the Great Swords right here for some AP. And then in the back, he does have Shades with dual weapons, who are probably more designed against Skaven because they do have that anti-infantry bonus and really shine against light targets. So that's going to be a little bit scary for sure. But a whole front line of Plague Monks here. I do have two groups of Skaven Slave Slingers, so actually just one. And also, by a popular request, I will be trying out the Death Glow Bombardiers. So these guys are kind of the more expensive variant of the Death Wind Globadiers. They don't have an anti-large bonus, but they do have a higher base weapon strength, and they do very well against infantry. So I'm pretty excited to see how they do. On top of that, I got some Rat Ogres, a Hell Pit Abomination to help deal with Malekith on the Dragon, because anytime you're going to be bringing a Grey Seer with the Lore of Ruin, or it doesn't really matter what lore you bring, but a Grey Seer atop the Screaming Bell, he's very squishy. I mean, he does have 100 armor and is somewhat mobile, but still he's kind of like a big target. So if there's like a dragon or, focus fire from any monstrous unit coming on him, he's going to be taking a ton of damage. On top of that, I do also have an assassin right here who does have the trophy heads. And let me go ahead and show you guys right here. So trophy heads is going to lower the melee defense and melee attack of enemy heroes or lords, which is really good because as soon as Malekith comes in here, I'm going to be debuffing him with that. And on top of that, they have this awesome ability. And I think this is going to be kind of a very meta staple ability right here. It's called the Rival High Talisman. So it affects all nearby units near the assassin in a 40 meter radius and lowers their melee attack by 44, which is pretty incredible. So if you throw them in the frontline engagement, use that ability, it's really going to kind of tilt it in your favor for your kind of ratlings down here. So definitely like it. Plague Claw or Warp Lightning Cannon in the back, it's going to be protected by some Clan Rat Spears, but this map was really awful for artillery. It would be fine for a catapult, but I didn't really know the map off the top of my head. So you can see I'm almost getting some friendly fire. It's like flying right over the Plague Monks, but if Malekith were to land right here, I wouldn't be able to get any good fire on him. Granted, I do get a pretty good shot right there. So for my opponent's army, he's got some Bleak Swords in the front line. He does have Harganeth Executioners for that anti-infantry armor piercing. And sometimes Skaven players will bring Storm Vermin to kind of mix things up a little bit. So having Harganeth Executioners isn't terrible. He does also have the Blackguard and Ogron here, some anti-large against my Grey Seer, and also pretty good against Hell Pit Abominations and Rat Ogres and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it should be fun. So you can see Malekith right here does drop a Gaze of Malice, which does some huge damage to my Skaven in the front line. You can see these Plague Monks are definitely having just a pretty horrible time in the front, just getting nuked by all kinds of different bursts. Also, Spiteful Conjuration is going to put their armor to 0. So they're going to charge in against these Bleak Swords. They definitely look pretty angry right here. And this is where they're really going to shine. Against Bleak Swords, they're going to cut these guys to pieces really quick because they have anti-infantry, high DPS. They're very similar to like Flagellants and Battle Pilgrims. You can also see my Globadiers are firing in right here. But unfortunately, Big Daddy Malekith is coming in, which is going to be very rough. It was definitely a very tough initial engagement right here. You can see he's able to get him his Cold One Knights over here on my Rat Ogres, who are taking quite a bit of damage. This is a horrible matchup because of the anti-large bonus on these Cold One Knights. Granted, they are taking a little bit of damage themselves, so it's not a complete waste. But Malekith does land and starts pressuring my Grey Seer with the Lore of Ruin. And I do have my Gutter Runners with Poison, kind of poking Malekith a little bit and applying Poison. And you guys can see I also do use the Warp Storm Scroll, which is an item that the Grey Seer can carry. It slows the speed of flying units by 48, and I think it also does a little bit of damage. It's kind of like a mini, not Fated Being, but Spirit Leech type effect. So I do some good damage to Malekith. You can also see my Hell Pit Abomination is fighting him. I hope they get that cool thing where they lock in on one another and have those, I thought he was about to tackle him, but they actually have some cool animations versus one another. But you can see my Grey Seer is taking a ton of damage because he has all these Shades back here. And Shades actually do start off, if I'm not mistaken, in stealth. So I did not know my opponent had these. He held the fire for quite some time, and then he just popped out and started hitting me so darn hard. And the Shades do have 34 missile damage. which is like heavily armor piercing. So that's a lot more than dark shards. And I, when I first, saw the missile fire, I was like, oh, it's probably just some dark shards I didn't see. So I kind of, disregarded it a little bit. But when I saw that they were shades, I kind of started to realize, oh, I needed to do a full tactical retreat here. So my Hell Pit Abomination is going to be running, my Grace here is running, and my whole front line is basically compromised. If we take a look right here, he is pushing down the hill with the Harganeth Executioners, but I was able to intercept with some Clan Rats, and then you can see my Bombardiers right here are throwing some great bombs into these guys, and just doing a ton of damage. So they're performing pretty well at this point in the battle. Only 5 kills, but it'll definitely add up if they get to, fire perpetually at these guys. So they're still just kind of teeing off on these guys, and you can see the Harganeth Executioners going down pretty hard. Some Plague Monks getting caught in friendly fire, but, it wouldn't be a Skaven game without a little bit of that. So right now, the Executioners are going to pretty much go down. I mean, they were at almost full health when they charged down the hill after me. But now, the Bombardiers right here, in conjunction with the Plague Monks and the Clan Rat Spears, were able to kind of do some good work. And I do have my Grace here, who does have armor-piercing attacks and anti-infantry coming in. And he's able to kind of, help finishing the routing of these Harganeth Executioners. So definitely a good situation henceforth. And guys, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. The dreaded 13th spell. So I timed it right on top of those guys, and you can see fireworks going off and Skaven just emerging from the pits. And these are Storm Vermin with halberds. These are pretty elite infantry, so you can see they're actually fighting pretty hard against these elite kind of a Blackguard and Ogrond. Granted, they're not going to win, but they're buying time for my hero back here and these Globadiers to get some good firing. And what's so darn cool about that is when you summon the 13th spell, you hear the bell like ringing, and it's such a cool thematic thing to happen. You can see that Malekith is going to be dropping the slowing effect on my Globadiers, because he's probably going to be chasing them with these Bleak Swords here, but you can see they're actually getting chunked very heavily by these Globadiers. So definitely not terrible. But right now, guys, the balance of power is definitely pretty heavily in my opponent's favor. I'm at about maybe 35% or 40. You can see some nice noxious breath coming down from Malekith, doing some decent work here. But the Assassin has come to save it today, so he's going to do some karate here on these Bleak Swords, and he's buying time for my Globadiers, who are just going to be teeing off on Malekith. And even though they're not anti-large, they still do have very good armor-piercing values and should be able to get some damage in against Malekith. So yeah, you can see the Assassin is just doing some excellent work right here. I think I already did pop the Rivalhide Talisman, unfortunately. Over here on the far side, you can see my Skaven Slave Slingers are kind of poking away at some of these shades, and I have kind of regrouped over here on the far side. So you can see this Hell Pit Abomination has come back, and it does have regeneration. So if you're able to do a bit of a tactical retreat, you can definitely get his bearings back. And he is just going to lay a whooping on these guys. Greatsword units aren't really good against large units, and unfortunately these guys are forced into melee, so the Hell Pit Abomination was taking some fire from the Shades, so they do whip out their crossbows, but I'm going to replace that pressure with some fire from my Gutter Runners, who are throwing their Ninja Stars, and also these Plague Monks right here, who are going to be very good. I mean, Shades are very strong in their right. They have 40 melee attack, 32 melee defense, but at the end of the day, they only have 30 armor. So this kind of withering missile fire from my Gutter Runners right here is going to just be absolutely devastating. You can see they're pretty much broken. So on the top of the hill, though, he still does have several groups of Shades. It looks like he has one group here, and I think they're all dual weapon variants. So these ones are definitely, in my opinion, the better choice against the Skaven. So coming down here, and you see I don't have much resistance. I have some Plague Monks, I have some Globadiers who are kind of poking at Malekith, and I do also have some Skaven Slaves. So these guys are doing some really good work, and you can see they're poking down Malekith by like 1 or 2 HP at a time, but that really does add up, guys. So in the back, the Hell Pit Abomination is now going to come in for this kind of final thrust, and Gutter Runners are not pushovers in melee. They do have a 26 melee attack, 28 weapon strength, and also apply poison. So the Hell Pit Abomination is doing some great work right here, kind of slamming on these guys. But this is a lot of DPS coming in, so the Hell Pit Abomination definitely does not want to get surrounded here. So what I decided to do is actually pull these Gutter Runners from their ranged attacks and just kind of pull them in, get a nice rear charge. And there it is, the Rivalhide Talisman from the Assassin, lowering the melee attack of all of these Shades in this really pivotal point in the battle to 0. So now they have 0 melee attacks. They're probably not really going to be hitting this Hell Pit Abomination as much. And these Gutter Runners, as soon as they throw a few more volleys, they're going to be running into melee, and they do really, really good, damage even in melee. So as far as everything else goes, you can see the Shades over here on the far side are kind of being fended off by the Mighty Assassin, who's doing some Skaven karate on them. And the Plague Monks, of course, doing their nice anti-infantry damage. Another great point in the battle is I also did get my Warp Lightning Cannon back online, so hopefully I can kind of poke down Malekith, who's really focused on the Slave Slingers back there. Probably not a good place to use them. I mean, they're definitely a unit you probably want to ignore unless you have something that can just munch through massive amounts of units very quickly. But the Hell Pit Abomination is just kind of slam dunking on all these guys, and look at them going up. That is such a disturbing unit. I mean, look at the little rat. Oh, it's like looking at, is that thing following me? I thought the little rat head was following me, but man, that is some disgusting stuff. So the Hell Pit Abomination is going to be slam dunking on some of these guys, doing some pretty good damage, and he does obviously cause fear and terror. I mean, you would definitely assume this unit would cause terror. So he's going to be slamming on these guys, causing some terror routing issues, and the Shades are basically getting crumbled. You guys can see the bounce power is now pretty much 50%. If anything, it's slightly in my favor, which is such a big turning of the tide. I was down to like 30%, but the Hell Pit Abomination and the Assassin were able to really, really just do some good work for me. And I love when the the assassin actually like tackle someone. Oh, look at that karate kick. So he literally just like tackled one of these shades and he was like gnawing on him while he was on the ground. Then he jumped up and did a karate kick and was able to kind of fend these guys off, which is so cool. And also my Grace here was able to survive the battle, and he's back in action. And let's see the fatigue. So you guys can probably see all of my units are very tired or winded, whereas my opponent's troops are actually, yeah, they're tired as well. Oh, some of them, yeah, they're shattered, so it's hard to tell, but mostly they're winded. But basically the point I'm trying to make is that the Grace here does have an ability called the Unholy Clamor, which you pop periodically. It gives, I think it gives leadership, or it gives vigor and speed, maybe? I can't remember his, I think, no, is it leadership? Yeah, it's leadership. So if you're popping that all throughout the battle, your units aren't going to be as tired as your opponents usually. Granted, in this situation, it was a little bit different. I don't know if Shades are just masters of physical fitness, but, you know, usually does pretty good work. You can see Malekith over here was getting blasted by these Warp Lightning cannons, and I think he actually died right here. I'm pretty sure he had like 1 HP, and he just got taken out. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. The beginning of the game was pretty horrible for me. I got like massacred so hard in that frontline engagement. The Shades were able to kind of really just do a ton of damage on me, so I had to do a bit of a tactical retreat, fall back down the hill, which then allowed my Warp Lightning Cannon to do work, and then of course the dreaded 13th spell. So I had to save up for that 25 Winds of Magic, but it seemed to really kind of change the tide of the battle. It locked down these Blackguarded Nagaron. It was able to allow my Globadiers to apply some pressure, and they actually ended up with 58 kills. So definitely some fun stuff. So very well played to my opponent. Call me Your Majesty. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that Skaven battle. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.